Welcome into our Northern Nevada Toyota Dealers Mountain West football preview special presented by Renown. He's Chris Murray. I'm Shannon Kelly. Over the next hour, we'll get you set for a new season and a new era of Mountain West football, as the league will look a little bit different this year with 3 new members. 5 teams are off to the newly revamped Pac-12 conference. And since the inception of the Mountain West Football Championship game in 2013, it's either been Fresno State, Boise State, San Diego State, or Utah State winning, with the exception of 2020 when San Jose State won the title. So it'll look quite different come December.
I think opportunity is the buzzword entering the 2026 Mountain West season, because as you mentioned, of the last 13 Mountain West football champions, 12 of those championships were won by teams no longer in the conference. So if you are schools like New Mexico, or a new school like North Dakota State, or UNLV, Hawaii Air Force, you feel like maybe there's an easier path or more opportunity to come home with a Mountain West football championship in 2026. So I think a lot of excitement entering this new era of Mountain West athletics, and it starts with this football season with a lot of teams dreaming big of potentially raising that trophy in December.
At Mountain West Football Media Days at the Palms Casino in July, Commissioner Gloria Nevarez took the podium, and here's her thoughts on adding North Dakota State and Northern Illinois and UTEP to the league this fall.
What I have seen firsthand with the launch of the Mountain West Plus, with some of the interaction on social, has been the new markets. Certainly NIU activating the Chicagoland area, UTEP reigniting old rivalries, and really an excited fan base. When I went down there, all I heard was, this has been in our scope for quite some time. And North Dakota State, while maybe a smaller media market, wow, media or fan awareness, brand penetration. I mean, it has been overwhelming. So just the excitement that they're bringing, the volume of eyeballs and clicks and subscriptions has been really, really healthy.
So UTEP is joining as a full-time member, NIU and North Dakota State joining as football-only members this fall. North Dakota State, the latest of those 3 additions, which is a very intriguing addition to the league, Chris.
And they're paying almost $18 million to make that jump from the FCS all the way up to the FBS. This is a program that has really dominated that lower level of football. 10 of the last 15 FCS national championships won by North Dakota State. So for me, that's the really exciting addition. UTEP, not a ton of success in football. NIU, 14 of the last 20 seasons, they've made it to bowl games, so they've been one of the better programs in the MAC. It is stinging if you're going to lose a Boise State, a Fresno State, a San Diego State, some of your traditionally strong football programs. I think they were ably replaced with North Dakota State, and like I said, I think there's a lot more opportunity for success at the championship level in this new look Mountain West for a lot of these schools. So there should be a little bit more excitement entering 2026, because they don't have to go through Boise State, which has won 3 straight Mountain West championships.
So the Mountain West didn't release a preseason poll in 2026 either, which came as a little bit of a surprise, but Commissioner Nevarez said that it's basically detrimental to brands, that it could hurt them rather than help them come down the line for CFP selection and whatnot. But we have our own preseason poll, Chris. Let's take a look at that. Mountain West preseason poll at the top: New Mexico, UNLV sitting at 2nd, North Dakota State, Hawaii Air Force, and then Nevada sitting at 6th. As you had mentioned before, North Dakota State, a very intriguing ad. We have them at 3 in your preseason poll.
And you look at some of these advanced metrics, ESPN's Football Power Index, for example, and they've got 4 Mountain West schools with a double-digit % chance of winning the championship. So I think there is pretty good strength at the top of the Mountain West. I think there's pretty good parity. There's not like one clear favorite. New Mexico, obviously coming off a very strong season. UNLV has made it to 3 straight Mountain West championship games, but has not won the big game. North Dakota State, as we mentioned, they seem primed to be able to make this jump and have success in their first year in the FBS. Hawaii continues to get better under Timmy Chang, 9 wins last year. Air Force, always a very, very difficult team to win. They are coming off back-to-back bowl-less seasons, but that's a program that's never won a Mountain West championship, and now it seems like there might be a little bit of a clearer path. You look on the right-hand side of that graphic: Nevada, San Jose State, Wyoming, Northern Illinois, UTEP. They haven't had as strong a seasons in recent years, but there always seems to be one surprise in this conference. Last year it was New Mexico. Will it be a team from the right-hand side of the column that maybe surprises everybody? Clearly, Wolfpack fans would love for that to be the team that plays at Mackey Stadium.
Well, it'll be interesting come December. Still a lot of season ahead of us, but the Mountain West did release a preseason all Mountain West team. So taking home the top honors, Offensive Player of the Year, Micah Alejado from Hawaii, Defensive Player of the Year, Jackson Eck, the linebacker from New Mexico, and Special Teams Player of the Year, Jackson Williams from North Dakota State.
You look at Alejado, he's a Las Vegas kid. He was the Mountain West Freshman of the Year last season. He's the best returning quarterback in the Mountain West, and that best quarterback generally wins Player of the Year. So no surprise there. Jackson Eck followed his dad from Idaho to New Mexico last season and was the co-defensive player of the year last season in the Mountain West. And then you look at Jackson Williams. This is a guy who's had at least one kickoff and one punt return for a touchdown in back-to-back seasons. He was an All-American in the FCS last year. So some names to know there, and maybe there's a Wolfpack player that sneaks in there. Obviously, Dylan LaBarbera, Nevada's best returning defensive player. Wolfpack has never had a Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year, so maybe LaBarbera could make some history. But all three of these guys rightfully selected into their positions based on what they have accomplished in previous years.
So what's the Mountain West path to the college football playoff this year? We saw Boise State get in 2024. Obviously, Ashton Jeanty was the force of that Broncos team, but could the Mountain West get a team? There's only going to be one Group of 6 team that makes it to the college football playoff. Could it be a team from the Mountain West?
And they did change the formula a little heading into the 2026 season. So previously it was the highest rated conference champion essentially from the Group of 5. Now it's just the highest rated team. You don't necessarily have to win your conference championship to get that Group of 6 slot now if you add the Pac-12. And you look at UNLV, that's a team that probably figures, okay, second year under Dan Mullen, they've really invested into UNLV football. They've really made a lot of strides in terms of their on-field success as well. And I feel like they have a schedule that sets them up, if they can go undefeated, to potentially put them in that college football playoff. If you look again at the advanced metrics, Boise State, the favored team out of the Group of 6 to get that slot. We did see 2 teams from the Group of 5 last year make it. You had Tulane and James Madison get in there. That's why they tweaked the formula. They said, we don't want to see that again. So there will be at least one Group of 6 team. And essentially what you got to do is almost go perfect. Maybe you can afford 1 loss, 2 losses. You're not going to be in that mix, but a lot of money tied to potentially making it to a college football playoff. So the Mountain West certainly invested in seeing one of its teams make a run.
Well, here's Gloria Navarro's thoughts on the Mountain West college football playoff chances.
I can be as optimistic as I want. I'm not coaching or playing. But no, in all seriousness, we really do believe in the strength of Mountain West football. And again, we're not doing our own preseason ranking or poll, but that's not to say there's a lot of industry experts, our own experts, that are really, really optimistic about the talent we've retained, the talent we've attracted, and the coaching caliber that we have in this league. So it really is exciting. Again, you never know until they're actually out there playing, but that optimism is real and founded.
Obviously, the big fish, if you can land it, is a spot in that 12-team college football playoff, although the Mountain West has several other tie-ins. You look at the Hawaii Bowl, the Potato Bowl, the New Mexico Bowl, the Arizona Bowl. Those are kind of the reserve spots for the Mountain West. But if all goes well, you could see a Mountain West team playing for a national championship.
Well, it should be an exciting season. Coming up next year on our Mountain West Football Preview Special, we'll first take a look at the Nevada Wolfpack, led by third-year head coach Jeff Choate.
Kendall Jenner.
Probably say the GOAT, Michael Jordan.
Tom Brady. I don't know if I can give it to Brady. Caleb Hack.
Probably Drake.
Robert Downey Jr.
Dead or alive, I'll say Michael Jackson.
I was just down at the Manning Passing Academy, so the Mannings coming to a game and watching a game would be surreal, would be a really cool experience.
Back here on our Mountain West Football Preview Special, he's Chris. I'm Shannon, taking a look at the Wolfpack now, led by third-year head coach Jeff Choate. Nevada aims to get back to a bowl game for the first time since 2021 after a tough couple of seasons, 10-39 in the last 4 years. Chris, and this is not what Wolfpack fans were used to football like at Mackey Stadium.
Yeah, if you have an FBS athletics department, but your football program is not winning, it's like having a car without an engine. That really is the thing that drives the interest, the revenue, the engagement, and really the excitement for an entire athletic season, because it's the first big sport in the fall season. So you look at that overall record, 10-39. I think the more damning record is 4-27 in Mountain West play. So they haven't even been able to measure up to opponents who kind of have similar things, facilities, budgets, all of that. As we mentioned, it's a new look Mountain West, some of the power programs now in the Pac-12, which should open up a pathway for Nevada to have more success, at least within the conference. Jeff Choate, first 2 seasons on campus, back-to-back 3-win campaigns. Gonna have to do better in 2026, and I think there's reason to believe that it will be better. I think the roster is in a better spot. Obviously, you've had more time to develop your culture, and as we mentioned, the schedule may be a little bit more easy than what they've had in previous seasons. So a huge year for Jeff Choate. Nobody's denying that, not even the head coach.
Here is head coach Jeff Choate at Mountain West Media Days on what a successful campaign looks like this fall.
We have to win. Let's not sugarcoat that aspect of it. And I think that if the quarterback play is what I think it's going to be, I think we're going to be a really, really good football team. I know we're going to be good on defense. Okay, I know we're going to be good on special teams. I know we're going to have a really good offensive line. For us to have success, for us to do what we need to do, it's go to a bowl game. I mean, that's the goal. But I'm a little bit more. I'm going to bet on the other side a little bit more and say, I'd like to see us in the conference championship game. And I don't think that's unrealistic. I think this is a league that, with the travel and the quality of teams and the quality of coaching, there's going to be, I don't think anybody's going undefeated in this league. I'm going to tell you that. I think there's going to be a ton of competition.
You mentioned this is a big year for Coach Choate. Well, he was able to retain some of his top players this season. 2 of those are Nevada's captains, Jack Foster and Dylan LaBarbera. They helped set the tone this offseason, and they're going to be key pieces to Nevada's success this year.
You mentioned the retention. I think that was a big storyline in the offseason. You go between year 1 and year 2 for Jeff Choate, and Nevada lost a ton of really good players to the transfer portal. Not so much this offseason. They lost a couple. One went to Ole Miss, one went to Texas Tech, a couple went to Oregon. But the key pieces Nevada wanted to keep, they were able to keep. And I think that's partially because they've invested more financially into the program. Part of it is people like to play for Jeff Choate. They like his personality and the fact that he's a genuine guy. And Dylan LaBarbera on the defensive side and Jack Foster on the offensive side, they really set the tone for digging in some roots and saying, let's fight through this. Let's not go try and get a paycheck at another place. Let's make Nevada football good again. And as a result of that, they didn't even have a team vote on who the captains were going to be. Those 2 just emerged throughout the entire offseason to make it obvious that these are the guys who are leading the program. These are the guys who are the face of the franchise.
Well, here is LaBarbera and Foster talking about the upcoming campaign from Media Day.
I just feel very confident in where we're at as a team. I think we have really strong player leadership from within, and I think we've got a lot of guys that have been putting in a lot of extra work to get 1% better every single day. And I'm just really excited to see what this team can do this year. For the seniors, for myself, my senior year, I want to go out with a championship. And everybody on this team wants that, and that's the direction that we're all headed in. So I'm very excited for it.
We had a lot of close games. It's very frustrating, but I think we've used it this offseason as a chip on our shoulder just to get better and improve on all those little things and just add to the season and play better and win some games.
Last year, Nevada's defense played well enough to make it to a bowl game. Nevada's special teams played well enough to make it to a bowl game, but the offense was not there. 17 interceptions against 10 passing touchdowns. And if Nevada wants to make it to a bowl this year, it has to play better on offense. So one of the big storylines during camp was who is going to be Nevada's starting quarterback. Is it going to be UCLA transfer Luke Duncan, or is it going to be Carter Jones?
It's going to be Carter Jones. So he started the final 7 games last year as a true freshman. Nevada wanted to give some competition to him, so UCLA transferred Luke Duncan, 6'6", comes in. It's an air raid style under new coordinator Brett Bartoloni, and it seemed like Luke was making a push for this job throughout fall camp, but Carter Jones was able to hold him off. I think the mobility that Carter Jones displays, I think the fact that they wanted to give him a chance to play as a true freshman, they really believe in this guy, and he was able to retain that QB1 designation. But you mentioned it, the offense, not just last year, really the last 4 years has been the issue. 19 points per game over the last 4 years, only 17 last year, and they had 19 total offensive touchdowns to 27 offensive turnovers. You kind of want a 3-to-1 TD to turnover rate on offense, so a lot of things have to improve. It really starts with that quarterback position. Nevada feels comfortable that Carter Jones has grown, not only physically adding 15 points, but from a mechanical standpoint with his footwork, with his leadership as well. So all of those attributes added up to him getting another shot to be Nevada's starting quarterback.
Here is Choate on naming Jones QB1.
This was a very close competition, and it was not any one play, any one day that impacted it. It was certainly a body of work going all the way back to spring, through the summer, and the 14 practices that we had before we got into this mock week. And so we're going to go with Carter Jones as our starter. And I think that's going to be all in behind him. We have to win games here. Carter knows that. Everybody in the organization knows that. We're going to do what we have to do to win games. And I'm like everybody else. We've taken the body of work that we have. We've made what we feel like is the best decision for the organization. But at the end of the day, we got to win. And if that performance level isn't a winning performance level, we'll do what we have to do.
If you look at last year, Carter Jones didn't put up the greatest statistics, but you have to look at the surrounding pieces as well. Wide receiver was a major issue for Nevada last season. It could be a strength this year. They went out and they added 5 transfers at the wide receiver position, 11 total wide receivers new to this roster. Guys like Gary Givens, he's really made an impact. You have Damian Morgan, who was a good player at Idaho State. You got Donnie Cheers, who seems like he can stretch the field. So I think Carter Jones, or whoever the quarterback's going to be, certainly going to start with Carter Jones, is going to have better surrounding pieces. The offensive line should be one of the best in the Mountain West. The running backs seem like they're a pretty good group as well. So it's not all on the quarterback. Obviously, the quarterback has a lot of responsibility, but the supporting pieces seem to put the quarterback in a better situation starting this season than what they were dealing with last year.
And Nevada went out and got a new wide receivers coach as well in Keith Price. So on paper, it seems like Nevada is poised to take a step forward on offense. We will, of course, see as the season begins against Western Kentucky. Coming up next here on our Mountain West Football Preview Show, we'll take a look at a couple of the league's contenders.
Favorite NFL player growing up is J.J. Watt.
Matthew Stafford.
Marcus Mariota.
I'll say CeeDee Lamb.
Probably Jason Kelsey. That's who I kind of model my game after a lot.
Aaron Rodgers.
I was a Vikings fan, so I loved Adrian Peterson.
Aaron Donald. He's a monster. He's different.
It's kind of a niche answer, but I loved Blake Bortles because I was a big Jacksonville fan. He took us to the AFC Championship in 2018. Can never forget it.
Probably Ray Lewis.
Clay Matthews.
Tom Brady.
Troy Polamalu. I've always been a Steelers fan.
Eli Manning. My dad was a big Giants fan growing up, so.
I have 2. I like Chris Johnson, and I also like Alvin Kamara.
Jaden Thomas, you're allowed to have 2. You're a pretty good player. These answers cracking me up, these players.
Jack Foster, probably the only guy whose favorite player is Blake Bortles. But he did have that one season, so that's nice.
All right, our Mountain West Football Preview Show rolls on, taking a look at a couple of the league's contenders. Let's start off with the UNLV Rebels, led by second-year head coach Dan Mullen. Crazy to believe this stat, Chris. In UNLV's first 45 years in the FBS, the number of 9-win seasons, 2. The number of 9+ win seasons the last 3 years, 3.
Yeah.
That's pretty insane to think the turnaround that Barry Odom started and Dan Mullen has picked up where he's left off with this group.
It's a completely different UNLV football program, one that's really owned the Fremont Cannon, and it used to be Nevada could look down on UNLV, and now it's the opposite, and I think that adds extra motivation for the Wolfpack to get its act together. But Dan Mullen has a pretty new-look roster, but I think the assumption is if Dan Mullen is your head coach, this is an SEC caliber head coach, you're going to be all right, especially on offense. They've got Jackson Arnold. He's a transfer in from Oklahoma and Auburn. He's going to take a lot of snaps at quarterback. They averaged 34 points per game last year. That was 18th in the nation. So expectations extremely high for UNLV. Feels like it's Mountain West title or bust. And it rightfully should be because of how much they've invested in this program, and Dan Mullen in particular. $3.5 million per year. He's making almost twice as much as any other coach in this conference. So UNLV has put its money where its mouth is, and you can see with the results that is really paying off.
You mentioned Mountain West title or bust. Well, here's Coach Mullen's thoughts on the expectations for this year.
We got to stick together as a team. We got to take care of our business. We got to be a better team at the end of the year than we were at the beginning, because that's what we can control. I can't control what everybody else does. We can control what we do. You know, we've got it. But when you're playing in a league that tough, you better show up every single week playing your A game. And if you don't, you're not going to win in this league. The expectation is to compete for and win championships. And I think that is kind of what's become expected within the program. I love that. I embrace it. We don't shy away from that. If you ask our players, they expect to go to compete for and win the Mountain West Championship this year.
We definitely have a target on the back, which is good. Showcasing that we are, a top dog in this league now. So I believe it's a good target on our back.
I would say we definitely lost some talent last year, just with the older guys, but we gained some elite young talent, which is amazing. I think the only thing we would have to work on is getting everybody intellectually up to speed. But we've been doing a great job of that so far, so I'm not really worried. I think our talent will be even better than last year.
Heading over to Albuquerque now to take a look at the New Mexico Lobos, led by another second-year head coach in Jason Eck, who turned this program around last season. 2025 was the third winning season in 18 years for the Lobos. They returned the most productivity in the Mountain West this year. They're poised for another breakout season. Unsure the status of Jack Lane. We'll see what happens with him. He continues to recover from that offseason elbow surgery, but the Lobos are poised to have another great year.
I think that's the stat that stuck out to me. 21st in the nation in returning productivity. At the Mountain West or at the Group of 6 level, a lot of times you're just going to lose your top guys, and New Mexico was able to retain a lot of them, and a lot of them came from the FCS with Coach Eck last year. So you mentioned Jack Lane, he's the starting quarterback. He came from Idaho, obviously his son, co-defensive player of the year. He came from Idaho. So there's a lot of really good players on this roster. There's a lot of continuity as well. It's the most highly anticipated season in New Mexico football history. So that is a different feeling. Last year they were picked to finish last in the Mountain West. They were able to sneak up on people. This year, no preseason poll, but they're number 1 in our preseason poll. So a little bit more of a bullseye on their back. The good news is their best competition in Mountain West, a lot of those games are in Albuquerque at home. So they have a pretty reasonable and favorable Mountain West schedule, and they've got the talent to go out there and win a conference championship.
Here is Coach Eck and a couple of his guys on retaining players this offseason.
It was huge to have a good chunk of our guys stay with us. There was probably about 4 guys that we lost that we would have liked to have had back. Some of our other guys left in the portal. I think were kind of good mutual things where those guys didn't play a lot last year, and we're trying to go to maybe an FCS level school to get more playing time, which I fully supported for those guys. So we're in a pretty good shape, and I definitely think we're just a lot further along with our schemes and knowing our systems and things, which now I think lets us really work on just the intricate details, the techniques that really win games.
Camaraderie in college football is so important in my opinion, and I think having all those guys come back, keeping that core together has been huge for the leadership this offseason and, showing the new guys along and bringing them in. And enough can't be said about how big returning all these guys has been.
I think that's really huge on defense, just with how much it relies on communication, everyone being on the same page. Because, we're kind of at a slight disadvantage. We're reacting to what the offense is doing. They know what we're doing, and we're trying to play off them. So having guys that you've played with for multiple years, you're comfortable with, communicating with, and kind of know how they play and kind of can play off each other in a way, I think that's going to be huge for us this year.
Out to the islands now to talk about the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, led by 5th-year head coach Timmy Chang, who is coming off a big season with Hawaii. 9 wins last year, ended the season with a bowl victory over Cal on the islands. And for Hawaii, they basically returned 4 starters on offense, 3 starters on defense, but a lot of the right guys are in place for this squad. I
mean, they've got the quarterback. Micah Alejado is obviously a very good player, Mountain West Freshman of the Year last year, and he's got his top wide receiver back in Pofeli Ashlock. So I think the offense will be good. The defense was actually sneaky good last year, 24 points per game allowed. That was 62nd in the nation. So Timmy Chang, 3 wins in the first year, then 5 and 5, and then 9 last year. So trajectory upward. We know him from his time in Nevada, where he was the wide receivers and tight ends coach with the Wolfpack, and obviously that program means a ton to him as he was a record-setting quarterback for Hawaii.
Here is Chang talking about some of the leaders of this 2026 squad.
I think in the group it starts with the quarterback, with Micah. Special player, understands what we're doing, leads by example, holds everybody accountable. And then, some of the other guys that came to media today, Cam Barfield, our running back, Jemiah Otis, 4-year starter Elijah Palmer. Those are true leaders within our program that help build to where we are now. And I think the goal for us is just to continue to build. I know to this point right now we've put ourselves in a position to win football games by our work in the offseason.
As much as it was a breakthrough year last year, as a team, we felt like we kind of failed in a way where, we fell short of the championship and everything that we aspired to do. So, this year it's about being more dedicated to the goal. Especially for me, I understand, and I tell myself, my life is a reflection on what I want and how bad I want to achieve the mission. And I think that's big for us this year because, we want to go host the Mountain West Championship, we want to go win, and then we want to go take that playoff spot. And, that starts from week 0, and week 0 started already since in January. So it's about us. It's about how we prepare. It's about how, we go attack every day and get better.
Coming up next here on our Mountain West football preview special, we'll take a look at the 3 newcomers of the league this fall. Back here on our Northern Nevada Toyota Dealers Mountain West football preview special presented by Renown. Taking a look now at the 3 newcomers to the Mountain West this fall, starting off with North Dakota State making the jump from FCS to FBS ball after winning 10 of the last 15 FCS national titles. This is an FCS powerhouse, and it'll be really intriguing to see how they adjust to play in the Mountain West this year.
You've seen a lot of these schools make the jump and have immediate success. So they opened their season against Jacksonville State, which has won 9 games in each of its first 3 seasons in the FBS. So it seems like the Bison will be able to make that jump and have success in year 1. They averaged 41 points per game last year against just 13 points per game allowed. So they certainly needed a new level. I also think this move will reignite the fan base. They didn't sell out all their games last year. They have won 10 of the last 15 FCS titles, but just 1 of the last 4. It's going to be interesting to see how quarterback Nathan Hayes does. He's in his 5th year in the program, but first as a starter. Each of the last 5 North Dakota State starting quarterbacks has been drafted into the NFL. So they certainly know how to figure out the most important position on the field. It would not be a surprise if this team is playing for a championship at year's end, and that is actually a change. The NCAA used to have a 2-year probationary period where you couldn't play in a bowl or a conference championship game after making the transition to the FBS. That is no longer. So North Dakota State eligible for whatever it can accomplish in 2026.
Here is head coach Tim Polasek and a couple of the players on the upcoming campaign.
Our guys know there's a certain level of remaining humble, staying humble, being allergic to the big meal anyway. So we've always talked in terms of kind of 1-0 mentality, deflecting away from talking about championships or any of that kind of stuff. But with that being said, football is football, training's training, and I think they respect everybody and anybody that's ever been on our schedules. They respect the challenge of this, but they're super excited to go through this process with the coaching staff, the fan base, because we're going to have to learn some things as we go here. I just hope we don't have to sacrifice a whole football season to do that. They also know we are positioned to compete. Okay, we're at the scholarship allotment. Our coaching staff's being taken care of. We've added resources. We've got some facility upgrades that need to happen, but they don't, not necessarily for winning this year. And so I think they're very mindful of the situation that they're in.
We're no stranger to really good football. We're treating it like every other playoff game in the FCS. There's a lot of good football in this conference, a lot of really good opponents, tough, fast opponents, and it's going to be a dogfight every week. And we're excited to just prepare like it's the biggest game of our lives.
NDSU has been obviously dominant in the FCS, but moving to a new program, it brings new challenges, whether that's travel to new teams and just new faces is all it is. And then I think there's just Fargo as a whole is just ready for culture change. Us in the Valley and stuff, it was good, but I think the Fargo moving together as a community as one will be really good in the Mountain West.
You know these guys are pumped to play in the Mountain West. There was a lot of buzz around North Dakota State at Mountain West Football Media Day. Heading to the Chicago area now to take a look at the Northern Illinois Huskies, led by interim head coach Rob Harley after Thomas Hammock departed for the NFL in the offseason in a surprise move. So the MAC now to the Mountain West this year with an interim head coach. It'll be interesting to see how this program puts some pieces together after it lost a lot of key players last year.
Historically, a really good MAC program, though. They played in an Orange Bowl 14 of the last 20 seasons. They've been to a bowl. But yeah, coming off a tough year, 3-9 last year, it was really the offense. They averaged fewer than 100 passing yards per game, just 17 points per game. One of kind of like a bucket of teams in the Mountain West that really need to fix the offense. So that's going to be the focus as NIU makes the jump into the Mountain West. But historically, this has been a program that it would make sense. You would say, okay, you add this to your conference, you're going to be better in football because they have won a lot of games over the last 2 decades. Maybe just since that win over Notre Dame in 2024, things have kind of fallen off for them.
That is true.
You never traditionally want an interim head coach running things, but that's the situation that the Huskies find themselves in, and I'm sure they will be excited as well just with a new challenge in the Mountain West.
Well, here is Coach Harley on the strengths of this group and some of the players on how they feel about ditching those midweek MAC games.
Some of the guys that have an immense amount of potential, especially at the wide out in the running back room, and looking for our tight ends to step up. And we're going to have a heck of a quarterback battle. And we got a new player coming in, and those guys are going to compete. And I have a good feeling that whoever has risen to the top in that quarterback room will have surely earned it through August. And we know one thing: you're going to need more than just one.
We played solid defense, especially I'd say through 9 games, and we were 9 of 11 new players last year. So again, and this will be new players, so it's not like, oh, we're just going to install the recipe, but I feel confident that we can get that done as a staff and then as a players, but I think their experience is what we really focused on, and bringing in guys with reps.
I did not like the midweek games at all. So I'm really glad that we play on Friday and Saturdays now. The thing that excites me the most is probably the opportunity, just the opportunity to play all these new teams.
I'm also very excited. The action games are cold, late, no one there. Not very exciting. I mean, still football, still fun, but just not the overall energy college football has.
No more midweek MAC games, Chris, and I don't think there's that about it based off of those answers.
Some Friday games, though, mixed in.
Yeah.
That's better than like a
okay.
random Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, no more action for Northern Illinois. Taking a look now at UTEP, the third new member to the Mountain West this year, making the jump from Conference USA, led by third-year head coach Scotty Walden, as he looks to get this program back on the right track after regressing from a 3-9 finish in 2024, going 2-10 last year. UTEP looking for answers on offense, so it brought in a new quarterback in Incarnate Word transfer EJ Colson.
And he said he was the best transfer quarterback in the portal, so he's very high on himself. This is a program that's historically struggled, just 3 bowls in the last 20 seasons. Over the last 10 seasons, 29 and 88 overall. Scotty Walden kind of in, again, the bucket of third-year head coaches who got to do something to get a 4th year. So Nevada's Jeff Choate, Wyoming's Jay Savell, and I would also throw Scotty Walden into that group. They have got pretty good interest in terms of private donations since they announced they were moving to the Mountain West, so maybe this is the jolt they needed to get that football program to a higher level. But there's not a ton of seasons in recent years where UTEP can point to and say, like, hey, we do this football thing really well.
Well, here is Coach Walden on the offensive adjustments heading into year 3.
We really invested into our run game, and we brought in 6 transfer offensive linemen, 4 transfer running backs. We've really gotten back to basics, offensively. I felt like, and again, it falls on me, is, trying to do too much, being overcomplicated. I think that we have revamped some things to allow our offense to be more plug and play, and that's why, and EJ, he's one of the smartest quarterbacks I've been around. You teach him something one time, he picks it up. But I think, allowing him to come in and pick it up so fast has been us, as well, drawing it back and making some modifications to make it simpler to learn, So I'm really excited about the explosive ability of our offense.
The O-line revamp, they've really stepped up in a big way. Shout out to Brian Williams. He's the leader of that group. Just the running backs we've brought in. Everybody knows about the receivers. They play fast, they're long. But then the 2 running backs that we brought in, Lamar Sperling and Tavares Jones, are going to make a lot of plays.
Coming up next here on our Mountain West Football Preview Special, we'll take a look at a few of the other teams, including the Air Force Falcons, led by the league's most tenured head coach.
Best stadium besides, UNLV, I would say probably Michigan. Michigan has a nice stadium.
I would say either Penn State or Oregon. Those are both cool stadiums.
Washington State.
I'll probably say Boise. That's a pretty good stadium.
Mississippi State.
Montana Grizzlies, really cool stadium. It was foggy, it was at night, big game, really cold. Their fans were rowdy, so it was a fun environment.
Utah State was pretty cool. It was just a little, pretty compact, so the noise was really loud.
War Memorial Stadium.
I like playing at Boise.
Back here on our Northern Nevada Nevada Toyota Dealers Mountain West Football Preview Show presented by Renown. He's Chris. I'm Shannon, taking a look at the league's other 3 teams. Let's first start off with the Air Force Falcons, led by the league's most tenured head coach in Troy Calhoun. You mentioned earlier on in the show, Chris, how Air Force has missed a bowl the last 2 years, but these guys believe they can get back to that spot this year, especially with returning their starting quarterback and returning their fullback.
I mean, they were coming off a string of like 9 and 10 win seasons for the last 2. Obviously, it's different. Transfer portal. You don't get to go play, get players if you're Air Force out of the portal. But their system and their scheme really works, especially in the Mountain West. They do have their quarterback returning. That is huge in the triple option. They have their top rusher returning in Owen Allen as well. It's really about the defense. The defense last year gave up more than 30 points per game. When Air Force is at its best, its defense is not on the field a ton because you continue to run the ball and melt the clock. You shouldn't be giving up more than like 22, 23 points if you're Air Force because the number of possessions is down. They do return like top 5 productivity on their defense from last year. Obviously, those guys didn't play great, but they should be more experienced. Would not be a surprise if Air Force is in the running for the championship, despite the fact it's coming off a 4-8 season.
The defense allowed about 30 points per game last year, the worst in a decade. So the Falcons returned a familiar face to the program, Steve Russ, the defensive coordinator this year. Here is head coach Calhoun on his key players that are returning to the squad this year.
Having Owen return, he's going into his 4th season. I thought he played pretty well, especially down the stretch of last season. Certainly the games when he gets a good number of carries, we tend to play better. We have a good blend of guys who have played and guys that I think are really capable within our offensive line. And then on the other side of the ball, defensively, I think the strength of our team will be at the linebacker level. Our 2 inside linebackers, both Blake Fletcher and Dallas Daly, are both seniors, guys that have made a good number of tackles.
You can always prepare for the triple option, but when it comes game time and you've got to actually defend against it, I think that's something else. And so, like the diesels up front, they're going to wear down on you, and I think they're going to experience that, especially coming in, never seen it before. We're kind of unique, and it's going to be trouble for them.
Our offense as a whole, we seem fit for whatever's thrown our way, and I think a bowl game is something that is an absolute must for us this year. It's been the last 2 years we've gone without one, and we're more than ready to get back, and I think it's time for us to go out and prove it.
Heading up to Laramie, Wyoming, or Laradice, as they call it, to take a look at the Cowboys, led by third-year head coach Jay Sawvell, who's had a tough couple of seasons after serving as the Cowboys' defensive coordinator before being elevated to head coach after Craig Bull retired. Wyoming 4-8 last year, 3-9 in 2024. Cowboys topped 21 points only 7 times in the last 2 seasons. So what did Coach Sawvell do? Went out and got a new offensive coordinator in Christian Taylor, who spent time with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, also a new quarterback they got from William & Mary, which is an FCS program where he was all-conference honorable mention, and it really comes down to that offense. Wyoming's defense is going to be good. You mentioned 7 20-point games against FBS competition out of 22 opportunities under Jay Sawvell. They're 4-3 when they score those 20 points. So you don't got to give them a ton of points, but the offense has just been like downright atrocious the last couple of years. So if they can get that point per game total, like to the mid-20s, this is probably a team that's going to a bye. There's just a question mark on whether they can actually do that on offense.
Well, here is Coach Sawvell on the Cowboys' new look offense under their new OC, Christian Taylor.
He embraces tight ends. He embraces running backs. It's not always just about let's put as many receivers out there and just throw it or something like that. So I think that's a piece to it. I think there's also the element that where we have a more diverse run game than what we had before, along with the fact that we've got any of our 6 skill players can be threats, Tyler Hughes included, because he's a dynamic athlete. And I think when you combine all that together, you can look at it and say, okay, I can see a world where this offense can become pretty good.
I'd say the most exciting part is that I just feel this competitive energy just all throughout practice. We're not friends in practice, offense, defensive-wise, and sometimes it'll lead to the locker room with some bickering, but just that competitive edge everyone has with the same goal in mind we're all trying to reach, it's going to be special.
Wrapping things up with our final team, the San Jose State Spartans, led by third-year head coach Ken Niumatalolo, who faces a total reset this year, returning just about 25% of its players from last year after a tough stretch for the Spartans, 3-9 last year. Can this program get back on track in 2026?
138 FBS program. San Jose State ranks 137th in returning productivity. Also completely flipped the coaching staff as well. So this is the most unpredictable team in the Mountain West. Coach Ken, historically, a lot of really good results before the last 5 seasons, going back to his time in Navy, won 4 games or fewer. So has the game passed him by? Certainly in year 1, they looked pretty good. In year 2, not so much. Will there be a rebound in year 3?
Well, here is Coach Niumatalolo on what his group needs to do to be successful in 2026.
I think offensively, we got to take care of the football. We got to do a much better job of running the ball in the red zone and running the ball on short yardage situations. I think defensively, we got to do a better job of not giving up explosive plays. And I feel like our guys have I like what we saw in the spring. Now, the spring is still the spring. You don't know what that means, but it just feels different this year than it did last year. But I'm also recognizing year 1 to year 2 was different. Year 2 to year 3 was different. In today's day and age with the portal, every team's different. It's not like my time at Navy where you developed your team and you had a guy for 5 years and you developed him. Now it's 1 year, you try to mold him and bring the team together. And I'm finding that's a little bit different, and we've had to adjust.
Definitely have a better camaraderie throughout the whole offense, and I think we're doing a lot better job of that this year. We started in the spring and summer, just kind of getting to it and making sure we're all on the same page from OC to position coaches to players. I think that's really been a lot better this year.
Coming up next year, we'll wrap up the show with some picks and predictions after the show. Back here on our Northern Nevada Toyota Dealers Mountain West Football Preview Special presented by Renown. Before we go here, Chris, we always end things with our annual picks and predictions, which are usually never right come December.
Oh, come on, speak for yourself. I'm sure I've got every single pick and prediction accurate.
Well, I did have a tough time predicting my Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year. I was going back and forth between Jaden Thomas and Micah Alejado. I think both are going to have pretty good seasons, but I picked the same one as
So
yours.
we both went with Alejado. So last year, 3,106 passing yards, 24 passing touchdowns. That was actually a Mountain West freshman record. And that was also the consensus pick from the media poll. So I guess we're not very creative with that one. We'll see if that's accurate at the end of the year.
And I don't think we're very creative with our Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year either, going with Jackson Eck, one of 5 starters to return on defense for the Lobos. The Mountain West Co-Defensive Player of the Year, led the team in tackles with 129, which was top 10 in the nation.
If Dylan LaBarbera can win the award, he'd be the first Nevada Defensive Player of the Year for the conference since Dante Moak in 2009.
Wow, there we go. And how about our Mountain West Coach of the Year? Our answers are different on this one. Chris, who do you have?
I'm going Tim Polasek with North Dakota State. I think if they get to 8 wins, the coaches will really respect that and give him the honor.
And I'm going with Timmy Chang over at Hawaii, as the Rainbow Warriors are coming off a 9-win season and will look to get back to the Mountain West Championship game for the first time since 2019. And speaking of the Mountain West Championship game, Chris, what's your pick?
I'm going New Mexico over UNLV. I like New Mexico's Mountain West schedule better than UNLV's, so I think those 2 teams face off for the championship, and UNLV is the runner-up in the conference for the 4th straight season.
Oh, wow. I'm going with UNLV over Hawaii. The Rebels have to travel to the island, so I think that Hawaii will get them there. I think Hawaii will have a really good season, so we'll see if I'm right. I'm usually not right on these things, but hey, a new college football season is here. Thanks for joining us on our Mountain West Football Preview Special. We'll see you later.